Hi, hello. I'm back with another budgeting video. This is going to be a monthly budget reset, and today we're going to go through where things stand as far as the end of January, and then we'll flip over to February so we can come up with a plan. If you've ever tuned in to any of my other budgeting videos, this is a little bit of a different format because typically I would just record my screen every time I got paid and categorize the money right away. But I think this will give us a little bit more time and space, and I can talk to you guys about what's really going on in some more detail. So let's get set up. Okay, so when it comes to January, the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is trending and noting where we are over, under, or on track for where I'd expect us to be. First, I want to talk about utilities. This is a category that in 2025 averaged $300 a month as far as spending. But that doesn't mean that that spending was evenly distributed every single month. So it wasn't like we were spending $300 exactly for 12 months. Instead, it seems like the winter months were probably higher and the summer months were considerably lower. And I set a target for this last year of $400 a month, and then found for 9 months out of the year, I was moving that extra $100 around, and I really didn't like doing that shuffle. So I decided to dial this back just a little bit to 300 to that actual average, with the understanding that some months, like this month, our spending would be over that. Those bills are going to be more just because we're running the heat. It's cold. I don't know who else is over on the southeast or the east coast, but Fern was pretty intense and pretty cold. So we've definitely been running the heat a lot. Next, I want to talk about household goods. This is a category group that has given me some trouble. Our average spending for 2025 here was $800 a month, which sounds like absolutely absurd, but I promise you we're only spending this on consumable household products that I think pretty much everyone uses. Maybe we are consuming a lot more than the average person, and we might be buying some extras. So we buy like disinfecting wipes, but then the rest is toilet paper, paper towels, laundry detergent, just like the run-of-the-mill stuff. $800 is our average. We spent $800 in January, which I think I was overly optimistic that we could somehow magically reduce our spending here to $500, but I just don't know that that's actually going to be achievable. So in February, I think I'm just going to have to turn that up a little bit. Meal kit is another one of these. Going into 2026, I may have just underestimated what we would spend. At the start of the year, we switched to a new company, and I wasn't sure exactly how much we would be spending week to week. It's sort of different than any other meal kit that we've used because they don't have a subscription where you're required to place an order every single week. It's kind of pay as you go. I wasn't sure in order to supply us with meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever for a week, how much that would cost. It looks like I set a target for $280, and that was a underestimation. So the lowest was $264, the highest was $431. I made some adjustments based on what we've actually been eating, and I'm thinking I can probably just tweak this to about $300 going forward. That should be good. I am pleased to say that for takeout and delivery, we are under where we had been in any month in 2025. That's probably because we are spending more on meal kits and actually enjoying and eating those meal kits. Whereas last year we dialed back a little bit on some of the meal kits and I found that we were eating out more. So it's a balance. This month we spent $775 on takeout and delivery, which is under the target that I'd set of $1,000. So I'm happy that we're coming in under there. I'll think about that as we go through and set up February. One change I am really excited to tell you guys about is that I did save $600 by switching insurance companies, which I know is like the cheesiest tagline to every single insurance commercial ever, but it's true in this case. I actually was able to go from a 6-month premium of about $1,600 down to $1,000, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to renew my premium for that same amount in July. In this time when costs are increasing all around, I was very pleasantly surprised there. I'm a therapy girly now. This is a new change as of the end of 2025. I love it. I'm obsessed with my therapist. I didn't realize just how useful simple talk therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy techniques could be, but I just feel so much more resilient already. I was able to find a therapist that worked with my insurance. I am just feeling really fortunate to have access to that kind of service. I pay for this by funding my out-of-pocket category here, and so I'm going to continue to fund my out of pocket for the rest of the years so that I can support my therapy habit. All right, doing things is the next thing on the list, and this is a category group that I feel like we don't spend from all the time. But this month, my partner and I, we have been more intentional about spending time together. It's cold outside, so we haven't been doing a whole lot leaving the house, but we watched the Australian Open. Since Australia is halfway around the world, I could not watch matches in real time unless I was going to watch at like 3 a.m., which, sorry, I'm not signing up for that. So I bought an ESPN membership for 1 month so we could watch those matches together on our own time. And then we also rented a movie from Amazon. I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I watched it because I'm on a mission right now to basically watch all the movies that Wesley Morris wrote about in his best of for 2025. I'm gonna make my way through this list, but I have to say that I did not enjoy this one very much. I don't, it was, as someone that has anxiety and feels like they take on so much, maybe too much responsibility, it was incredibly stressful all the way through. So, I mean, maybe the film did what it was intending to do, but it honestly made motherhood look very, very daunting and scary. And then travel. Some funny stuff happened here. We ended up canceling a trip because the dates no longer aligned with what was going to work with our work schedule. So those funds were reimbursed here. So this looks really wonderful and amazing and positive. However, we did also book a vacation. This money got moved out of here and was moved toward our next trip. This month, I spent way more than I budgeted for on myself. In this category, I'm at about $1,000, but we can talk about some of the things that I spent on. When it comes to personal care, I stocked up on basically every product that I use to take care of my skin, my hair, my body, and so that ended up being $517. I think this is a category where I don't understand quite yet how to fund this. It might almost make sense for me to try to like save up so that I can have a year's worth of expenses here, because I tend to buy things in clusters and some of the products are quite pricey. So giving myself like a monthly budget to stay under hasn't seemed to work. Although in theory, if I'm setting aside like $150 every month when I'm not spending from it, that should build up. I don't know, something is going on there. I need to play around with it and figure out what I can do. Since now I know what products I need and that I just plan on replenishing, I should be able to have more evenness and I think a sense of control here. I think right now I still feel a little bit unaware of what's going on and like what the total is that I actually spend on these kind of purchases in a year. Does that make any sense? Guilt-free, I spent quite a bit. I want to talk about those things with you, but I think my favorite purchase that I made was buying Strangers by Belle Burden. It was just a really enjoyable, succinct, clearly written memoir from the perspective of someone that was born into aristocracy, Americans' version of aristocracy, right? And seeing the unraveling of her 20-year marriage and the ways in which in that relationship, even though she had so many advantages, you could still see the cultural relationship expectations play out in ways where she ended up making a lot of decisions that gave her ex tons of power and control over the finances. And she reduced her own agency and opportunities in order to take care of the family and shelved her own career, even though she had Ivy League education. I just thought it was fascinating because it's such a different kind of social world that she is moving in, yet at the same time, you could see these dynamics that play out in relationships all across the socioeconomic spectrum. So I thought that was really good. I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed how she talked about rebuilding her identity in the face of such a major loss. And the reason that I also really love this one is because it brought me back to reading. I have already read 2.5 books this year. In the past couple of years, I've been wanting to read 12 books a year, but could never exactly, I don't know. I never hit it or I never prioritized it. And I find myself prioritizing reading so far in the first month of the year. And I love that for me. I also spent on stuff for glass bead nails, which I have been obsessed with, but I never really understood how to achieve it, especially with the regular polish. I'm not like a gel polish girly. I've done gel polishes before, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I enjoy them. It's too much of a hassle to remove. My nails always feel super scuffed up when I take them off. I found a Reddit thread where someone had achieved the most amazing glass bead nails with regular polish, and I had to try it. So I stocked up on a bunch of polishes from this company called Beesneys Lacquer. when they had their drop in January, and it's everything that I ever would have imagined. I love it. The Nina Park makeup trend has been all over my FYP. I don't know about yours. I love that style of makeup. Something about it feels kind of nostalgic to me. It reminds me for some reason of the early aughts. I love that. So I spent some money there that I was not planning to spend. I think what I've been noticing though is with all of the spending around aesthetics, I'm trying to balance resisting myopic self-obsession and internalizing fascism because we have the perfect conditions for that kind of attitude. And I don't think it's what we need. In some ways, it feels good, right? It's an escape and it's a distraction from the chaos that's happening around us. I know in my industry, there have been mass layoffs. There's a plan for there to continue to be layoffs in a lot of places, and there's not a lot of available jobs, which makes work just feel super random and makes it feel like employment is completely out of control with what's going on with ICE and the fact that American citizens have been executed by the state for essentially no reason without due process. That's not supported, obviously, by our Constitution, and it's happening, right? It's happening anyway. So I think that for me at least, there's this feeling of so many things being out of control and spending time on these routines around beauty and health and wellness can feel really good and satisfying because it is within one scope of control, but I don't think it's what we really need in the moment. Like when we need to be turning somewhat outward, focusing on community. I've definitely had my eye on what's happening with Minnesota right now, and if you would like to donate, I was recommended Stand With Minnesota as a reputable source to find places to get organized. So I recommend checking that out if you want to contribute to mutual aid this year. All right, the last notable for this month is that I turned the tap back on for investing. In 2025, I stopped investing once I hit Coast Fire, or at least my first Coast Fire milestone. But I know that that's actually not where I want to be when I retire. I actually think now that my income has increased, I want to probably double my goal for annual income in retirement. I decided to restart that, and things have slowly started kicking in with my tax advantaged accounts. This month, I contributed to my HSA out of both paychecks. The 401k took a little bit longer to get going, but now that is dialed in as well. So this should be the lowest month of investing for the year. For the year, I set a target of $6,000, which I know is not a huge amount. I'm going to need to divert my money to some other areas, but seeing some forward momentum in this area is something that I still value a lot. All right, that's it for January. January is pretty much wrapped. I don't have anything else, so now we can shift the focus to February and take a look at what we got going on over there. And I'm going to use the money that I earned in January to get started budgeting for next month. I have my income sources listed here. So the first is my partner contributions. My partner contributed $1,840 to our joint account, and we contribute proportionately to any joint expenses. I sort of think that's the only way to do things equitably in a partnership. Don't come at me, but it makes things a lot easier. I brought in $8,614.95 from my paychecks. We earned a little bit of interest this month from our high yield savings account at 138. And we got some other income, which I think was the annual interest for our security deposit in our building for $544. So that is all the income that we earned this month. I'm going to flip over to February and we can go ahead and start budgeting. I always like to start with fixed costs, and we can make some of those adjustments that we talked about. And I'll also call out what might be changing, what's a little bit different. First up in fixed costs, we have my home category group, which has everything related to our actual physical space and things that we put in it to keep the household running month to month. First is rent, and that gets $3,475 every single month. That is for a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment in a pretty high cost of living area. I know at first I had sticker shock seeing that price, and then in the years since, I've seen apartments that are the same size and the same amount of bedrooms and bathrooms in my area charge $5,000, which that honestly blows my mind. I can't imagine that. So I'm happy in comparison sticking to what we have here. Storage is $50 a month for a storage unit in our building, and we also pay for a garage in our building. I like to keep these separate just because they're optional add-ons, right? So anytime I could decide that I want to cancel or stop using the garage or stop using the storage unit and move our stuff out, and then we would just be down to like that base rent price. I also think it helps me to see the value that I'm getting based on what I'm spending by breaking things out pretty granularly. So it gives me that extra sense of clarity. Our building utilities vary month to month, but the average for 2025 was about $70 per month. So I'm going to fund that there. Gas and electric, which, like I mentioned, averaged $300 a month for last year, but I think the winter months were definitely higher. I'm just going to set that $300 aside for now, and then once the bills come in, I can shuffle things around from somewhere else if I need to. Our Wi-Fi is $125 a month. And renter's insurance is a sinking fund. So renter's insurance for us is due once a year. And rather than just waiting until the time it's due and figuring out how I'm going to pay then, I like to set aside little amounts every single month. Basically, taking that $170 and dividing it by 12, which YNAB does automatically if you tell it what you want your target to be. Then I can just add that amount every single month and know that by the time that bill is due, I already have what I need there. So that'll get $15 a month. We get our apartment cleaned twice a month, and that is $150 per service. And then household goods. The target that I had set at the start of the year was that $500 amount, but I'm going to edit this to $800 because I want to just be realistic. That is realistic. That was the average over the last 13 months at least. So we'll go ahead and stick with that. Food and drink is next. First up, we have meal kit. As I talked about before, I think I want to adjust this target up to $300 every single week. I think that should be enough to get us what we need for all of our meals for a week. So that's $1,200 total for February. Groceries, typically we spend around $300 a month, so I will add that. And meals at work is $200 a month, and that is for any meals that my partner grabs on the go. Their job is very, very time intensive. And so there isn't a lot of time to prepare a meal, let alone actually have time to eat a meal at work. So whatever they can grab comes from this $200 a month. Planes, trains, and automobiles is my transportation group. The first category I need to fund is my car loan, which gets $600 a month. My car insurance went down to $1,000, so that'll be $167 every single month. And by the time that premium is due again, I will have the full $1,000 saved up. Taxes, registration, and fees, that will get $59. And that is another sinking fund to prepare for annual property taxes that we pay on cars in my area. Car cleaning and maintenance gets $20 per month. This is a category that I don't spend from regularly, especially since it's winter and it's just gross. There's slush and sludge and stuff like that all over my car. I'm probably not going to get it cleaned for a while, so I'll let this build up a little bit and then save up for a time when it's not going to be freezing and snowy. Seasonal tire swap is my twice a year regular maintenance for my car. I didn't grow up with like snowy winters, so we used to go to the snow from where I lived. So I wasn't super, and I'm still not like the most comfortable driving in snowy or icy conditions. So I opted to get winter tires that I get installed once the temps drop, and then I swap them out for my all-season tires once the temperatures get warm enough. Right now, I have my winter tires on. That it's going to be $160 or somewhere around there to do the swap in the spring. Charging will get $60 a month, and that is just to make sure my car can go. In the me category, I'm going to set aside $150. I don't have plans to really buy much here for this upcoming month. We'll see. Hopefully this will be enough and I can roll it over into March to build that up for the next time I need to restock. Active services are our subscriptions that we pay for every single month. The first thing here is my phone bill. I am still on my parents' family plan, so I send them $60 every single month. Netflix gets $27 a month. Premium connectivity is my car's data plan, and that gets $11 per month. Prime Video channels, any add-on subscriptions that I want to get through Prime for any other service like HBO Max, I will just pull from this category to fund any of those as wanted or needed. I wanted to watch I Love LA, and I love that show. I think it's the best television of the year, at least in my opinion. We like to rotate through different streaming services, and I can do all of that on Prime. I can sign up for HBO Max, Apple TV, Paramount Plus. So that's sort of what I've been doing, and it keeps it all in one place. I know that's probably intentionally designed that way, but so I'll probably cancel HBO Max after I will catch up on Industry, and then I might swap it out for something else depending on what's on at the time. But that will get $45 a month. Apple Music will get $13 a month. Chani is my astrology app, which gets $14 a month. Peloton is now $50 a month. My partner and I decided this year to keep Peloton for winter months and especially busy seasons where it's not going to be as easy to get to the gym. And then for other months, I think maybe we'll pause it or cancel it or something, because $600 a year sounds like a lot. Apple Cloud gets $10 a month. And then Walmart Plus and New York Times All Access, I'm not going to set anything aside for because these are reimbursed by my credit card. Annual fees we pay once a year, obviously, as the name implies. I set these up so they're all sinking funds based on the time that they're due. So this first one is due in February. It's $95 each year. And because I told YNAB that, it then we'll break that $95 up into 12-month chunks so that by the time it's due, I have what I need there. So that'll get $11. YNAB, which is the app that I'm using to do all this budgeting, is $10. Amex Blue Cash is $10. Amazon Prime is $13. Costco gets $5 a month. Microsoft 365 gets $13 a month. Samsung TV Art gets $5. Amex Platinum gets $123. Amex Gold gets $30. My Aura Ring will get $7. Headspace will get $6. And then Uber One, I am going to skip because this one is also reimbursed by my credit card. Debt payments look a little bit different this year compared to last year. If you remember, I had two categories here. I had the 2024 taxes and I had something else that I will get to when we start to talk about goals. So it didn't go anywhere. It's still a part of the budget, but just budgeting for it a little bit differently. For 2024 income taxes, I owed quite a large amount, and I'm slowly paying that back by giving the IRS $300 every single month, and I'll be doing that for the foreseeable future. I just underestimated my tax obligation that year, and it was a year when I'd earned way more than I ever had before. So I think that excess income was taxed at a little bit of a higher rate, and I wasn't prepared for that. But now I know, lesson learned, and I have adjusted withholding. That is it for the fixed costs for this month. Next up, I have guilt-free spending, and you definitely don't have to categorize guilt-free spending. I think probably most people don't. I do because I like to be granular and see where my money is going so I can determine if that's something that I really value spending on. For us, I know that we value spending in these areas and are going to spend from them every month. So takeout and delivery, as I mentioned in January, we stayed under that $1,000. I'm going to actually see if I can just set aside $900 this month and see how that works as far as if we're able to stick to a lower amount again this month. Coffee will get $75 a month, and that is just to replenish any pods that we need to, or if we decide to go to a cafe or something and grab some coffee, that'll come out of this money. Pilates and fitness will get $36 a month. I am very sad to say that I can no longer afford Pilates in my area. We have this really great studio, but prices just kept increasing and increasing. So I think this year for a single class, it's something like $60 per session. Yeah, you heard that right. $60 for a single class. And this $36 gets me 1 month at the gym where I can take as many classes as I want. And I've really been enjoying the body pump classes so far, and I think I want to get into like strength training and lifting, so definitely well worth it. I can probably just edit this because Pilates is not a part of my life anymore, sadly. And for hobbies, I need $36 to pay for equipment. All right, this money has dwindled pretty fast between those first two views. So now we're going to go into the savings view and set aside money. So this group is basically all sinking funds, except I would say the one difference between this and something like what we saw with my annual fees is that with all these savings sinking funds, these are less predictable and more varied. So rather than having a date when I know I will spend a certain amount, these expenses might kind of just occur happenstance. So for example, in the first one, I have health. So for out of pocket medical costs, I set aside $250 there. And depending on when I have doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, therapy, this money will get spent at some point, right? And so I'm just going to set aside $200 every single month, allow this to build up in months when I have less bills or less appointments, and then I will spend from it as needed. I'm not going to do anything about travel fund right now. We booked a trip with the available money that I had, and nothing additional is going to go in here right now. All right, in giving, we have a few different categories. The first is festivities, which will get $125 a month. And that's because I set a target of $1,500 for the year in December. That should be enough to cover any holiday spending, like gifts or decor or meals. And that's what I went with in 2025, and it seemed to work pretty well. Gifts for others is $100 a month, and that is for buying a gift for any sort of occasion that is not specifically the holidays. So that could be a birthday, could be celebrating a promotion or a wedding. That money would come out of here. And then mutual aid, I'm going to set aside $10. I'm probably going to end up pulling some money from gifts for others to contribute to mutual aid in the coming months, just because I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now that's really timely, and this $20 is not going to do a whole lot. So we'll see what I plan to do in February and how I shuffle things around here. Lastly, I have Flex Fund, and I got this concept from STEM Girl Budgeting. I love it. In the past, I had a category that had about $2,000 in it, and I felt like I couldn't spend from it. In my mind, it was there for some really undefined circumstances where I would need to spend up to $2,000, like maybe if my computer broke or I don't know, I had to make a last minute trip. But now that I'm focusing on being a little bit more cash heavy, I like this idea of a fund where I can move money in and out as needed. I can build it up when I have extra. If something comes up that's unexpected, or if I need to spend more in any of these areas, I can dip into it. I used this for the first time in January of this year, and it's something that I'm going to keep up going forward. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is something that I haven't really done ever, and that's make financial goals. In 2026, I decided to actually make two financial goals that are really more like milestones toward longer term outcomes that I want to achieve in life. But I thought it might make sense to have some milestone markers here that we can track together as the year progresses. So within debt payments, I have my student loan. It didn't disappear, go anywhere. I'm currently on the save plan, and our loans are in forbearance at the moment. That does mean that they're accruing interest every single day, but there's no payment due right now. I have voluntarily been paying $2,000 a month toward these just to chip away as I can. And I realized that if I did that, I wouldn't be knocking down the balance as fast as I really wanted to. And so I decided I'm going to make a goal this year to pay $36,000 toward my student loans minimum. And so if I were to continue with just $2,000 a month, that would be $24,000. I decided I'm going to actually add another $12,000 on top of that just to get a little more movement in that area before 2028, when some of the Trump administration student loan plans take effect. My second goal, which is to increase my 3-month expense fund by $18,000. I did contribute $18,000 here in 2025, but I borrowed a little bit for an upcoming trip. I have to replenish that to get this baseline back up to 18,000. But on top of that, I want another 18,000. So the total for the end of the year here should also be 36,000 if I am on track. So those are my two goals for the year. I am looking forward to sharing progress with you guys and seeing how it works, actually tracking the goals this way. That is one thing that I find that YNAB isn't actually the best at. I feel like they don't have a super robust way to do goals right now. So I'm kind of making my own hacked together version, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, with this $125.39, I'm just going to stick that into Flex Fund for now. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you stay safe, stay warm, take care of yourselves, take care of your community, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.